Welcome to another edition of the In Search SEO podcast, where we paint the town red with search marketing insights. Today, we have one of the best beards in all of SEO for you. He's a prolific baker of bread, a bearded breadsmith, if you will. Simon Cox is here to share how he's handled sites in the wake of COVID-19. We talk about what changes has COVID-19 brought to both local and non-local sites, how to approach content generation during COVID-19 as intent has changed so drastically, and what to consider about working on your site's optimization post-crisis. Before that, though, we talk about how to stay in touch with what Google's up to, tips on keeping your ear to the SEO ground. I am your host, Mordy Oberstein, and I am joined by the never torpid and always plucky Sapir Carabello.
Hello, Morty.
Hello, Sapir.
How are you doing?
Doesn't matter. Don't ask. Don't ask. That's how I'm doing. Not good.
Okay.
But we're going to pretend like things are hunky-dory, which is, by the way, a great album by David Bowie.
Who even says that?
David Bowie album, Hunky Dory. Great album. Life on Mars is on that.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Whew. Another week. Another week of COVID-19 quarantine. Life is grand. Can I say, by the way, that leaving COVID-19 aside for a minute?
Yeah.
I think everyone on SEO Twitter needs to chill the freak out. Seriously, some wacky crap going on Twitter lately. Like there was a whole study that Brian Dean did analyzing which ranking factors are the most important. Like, okay, everyone, and rightly so. That study is very top level, if valuable at all. That's a bit of a, I guess, a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think straight. You know where it's, controversial opinion,
Okay.
right? Because I personally think ranking factors, wherever you want to, ranking signals are very much query dependent. Ever since machine learning and ranking entered the picture, like, it doesn't matter what the ranking factors are across the board, or even per niche. It's what goes into this particular, what's the intent in this particular query, and what factors align those intents. Separate question, but he got beaten up all over Twitter. And I'm a little bit guilty of it myself. Yeah. Like, everyone, we just need to chill out. We don't like it? Fine. Agreed. I don't like the study. But let's all chill out a little bit. Some other things going on around there. You know, Google said that, or Danny Sullivan said that something like, we're all about users, not advertisers. And of course, everyone went crazy and started attacking everybody. Like, chill out. Like, first off, do you think that Danny Sullivan or John Mueller are thinking about how to maximize Google's profits? No. Like, they're just trying to make search better. That's legit.
Right.
That's 100% legit.
It reminds me of the discussion that we had back in the mental health SEO.
Yeah,
podcast.
with Kelly Stanzi. Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of similar.
Yeah, just, like everyone just relax a little bit. This is not good.
Right.
Like, yeah, I understand, like, there are probably people at Google, the higher-ups at Google, who are way above Danny Sullivan or John Mueller's pay grade, who are making business decisions much like every corporation that might be a little bit callous. I get that. And I'm not for that necessarily. Right. It's complicated. But people like John Mueller or Danny Sullivan are just trying to make search better. That's 100%. Right. They're not, like, trying to, like, squeeze profit out of the SERP. So everyone just chill out a little bit. Do not forget, we put out a new episode of the In Search SEO podcast each and every Tuesday. You can find it on the Rank Ranger blog. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it on Spotify. And, of course, you may subscribe on iTunes. Also, don't forget to check out our new Twitter page. It's at InSearch_SEO. Also, we've been looking for some feedback on the podcast. So yeah, please, we have a survey set up. I'll throw it up on Twitter at one point, and we'll throw it up on the blog post for this podcast. So if you see it, fill it out. Really short, no information. You don't have to leave me your email address or your name, like none of that. I just want information. So we would really appreciate if you fill that form out. Look for it again on Twitter and the blog post for this podcast. Also, if you want to see which keywords consistently show a local pack, which keywords don't show the same 3 listings each and every day, i.e. those keywords where you have a real shot of getting your business listed in the local pack, then you want our SERP features monitor. Head over to rankranger.com, sign up for a 14-day free trial, and you can test it out for 14 days, because I said it's a 14-day free trial, for free for 14 days. No credit card necessary, because we are not spammy. Whew.
Amazing.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah. So we've got a great show with you. Simon Cox had a bit of like a mind-picking, brain-picking session with him where I was trying to pick his brain of how he's handling some of the various types of sites that he's working on in relation to COVID-19. That's some really cool stuff there. Kind of a more conversational approach than we usually take with the interviews, and I kind of like it. We'll see how that goes going forward. Also, I should add also, but before that, one of the main things I always want to do with this podcast, and in general the content that I put out there, is to really help educate people, because I used to be a teacher, in case you didn't know that, because I only mention that again every freaking episode.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's part of my identity. Let it go.
You're a good teacher. You're
I'm
a good
the teacher.
educator.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are different levels to this, because of course all content is educational at some level. That's what content is. But what I really mean is, offering a way to see things a bit differently, or not just new info, but a more directional look at things. Sort of like, I'm not going to give you the fish, I'm going to teach you how to fish. In case you've never heard of that expression before. They teach a man to fish, whatever it is, or teach a woman to fish, because women can fish too.
I heard of that.
Yeah, I don't really remember it at the top of my head. But yeah, you know what? You all know what I'm talking about. I love fishing. Anyway, there is still a bunch of data I want to share with you that I haven't gotten to yet, but we'll get to that in a future episode. I know, what a tease, right? There's more data coming. Future episodes, big tease. I'm a big tease.
Right.
Yep, I love teasing. That's why I always wear short shorts.
Tease. That's like,
right.
I don't know how we'll survive until
you won't.
The next podcast. Right.
It's like the podcast version of wearing short shorts. The big tease. Anyway.
What?
Short shorts?
What?
You don't know who wears short shorts? They're like, you know the old shorts, like went all the way up to your butt, that people used to wear like in the 1960s and 70s. Like if you go look at Google, like I don't know, like Dr. J, he's a basketball player. You can see the shorts that he was wearing went all the way up his thigh. Whatever. Totally getting lost on this. We're not talking about short shorts. What I want to share with you is how to get a feel of where Google is going, where they're at, and so forth, because we are going back to SEO school. So I'll be honest. It's been hard staying in touch with where Google's heading. You know, what it's thinking, how it's approaching things, and I've been feeling disconnected and sad, and I was wondering why. So I thought maybe I'm not reading enough. Yeah, feel bad for me. Keep the sympathy coming. It's very frustrating. No,
I always feel bad for you.
Me too. I feel more bad for my family, but anyway. It's stressful for me. My whole job is like trying to analyze Google and think about Google and do analysis and study. That's my freaking job. Well, part of my job. So it's stressful when you feel disconnected like that. It really is. It's like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind here. But I was trying to think about why is that? It's like, all right, maybe I'm not reading enough articles, like SEO articles. So I read more SEO articles. I make sure every day to read at least 3 or 4 of them. And that didn't help. Because most of them are crap. But even the ones that aren't not crap, it just didn't help. It just wasn't. I thought that maybe it was Twitter, because Twitter's been dominated by Corona, not SEO. Which, by the way, I hate Twitter's algorithm these days. It's gotten like far more like hyper focused. Like I interact with one tweet about baseball, and now I have 4 million tweets about baseball. It's not what I want. Anyway, side point, because what I realized was the reason why I'm feeling disconnected is because I haven't had time to play around on the SERP. I just got too busy. So,
what do you mean play around on the SERP?
We just run a bunch of queries, kind of see what's happening. Like if you had to ask me, how do you go about doing an analysis of where Google is, where it's at, or where maybe it's heading? That's a little bit more than a skin deep analysis. You just have to run queries. You have to. It's like by getting a feel of the SERP itself and seeing what's there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, so you mean that your way of analyzing Google's future direction is by analyzing the changes they're making on the SERP?
Yeah, basically. In a sense, there's a lot of different ways you can take this and a lot of different ways you can analyze this. For me specifically, and I've always wanted to write about this, maybe one day, well, it's on my list of future content to write. It just keeps getting pushed down. It's by taking a thematic analysis or a thematic look at what Google's doing. It's like, looking at what Google is showing now versus what it did show, or maybe what it's not showing, and asking what message does that send? Like, what message can I take away from this? And in my personal opinion, that is the most powerful analysis you can do about where Google is and where it's going.
I think I understand what you mean, but it kind of sounds way too abstract. Like, can you elaborate a little bit?
Why is that abstract?
I don't know. It's too I don't know.
Do you want an example, you mean?
Look, yeah.
Okay. I come prepared. I have an example for you. I was going to give examples.
Oh, please not sports related.
Please not. Let me think. Hold on one second. Do I gotta remember my notes. No, not sports related.
Oh, okay then.
No. No. There's one that's sports related. I totally forgot. Sorry. There is one that's sports related. Sports is, by the way, sports queries are the best because they bring up so many SERP features. And there's a lot going on with them. It's very dynamic.
You told me that before.
I say that all the time.
Don't care.
No, why should you not care? That doesn't make any sense. I'm telling you that you can forget if you like sports or not.
Music related.
It's not the same.
Why?
Because let's take I don't know, take a musical artist.
You're gonna get news. You're gonna get
right, but it's not always changing. There's not new content coming out all the time. It's not always news, or there's not always sports scores, or there's not always this going on or that going on. There's a lot. It's not there. You have 4 guys in the band, right? I'm thinking of BTS, whatever. There's 4, 5, 7, whatever. There's 7 guys. 7 guys in the band
all the time. They're
right.
New stuff all the time.
I agree. I'm not saying it's bad. But you're talking about players, 50 players, different ways to segment the players by position. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna segment the band? Guitar players? There's like 1 guitar player, 2 guitar players. That's it. There's more with Google to work with. I know they don't even. They're like the Milli Vanilli in my mind of the modern world.
Milli Vanilli?
You don't know what I'm talking about, right?
I have no idea, but I just know that you disrespected them.
Big time.
I'm not having.
I call them bigger fakers than whatever.
Oh my god.
We're talking about the SERP. I'm going to give you examples.
Okay.
Okay, we stay on target, Sapir.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
You stay on target.
For God's sake. Okay. Let's take a look at. Okay, my first one is around the visual orientation of the mobile SERP. Like, remember Google themselves a while back said, I think it was John Mueller said, big changes are coming to images. Lots of big changes coming to images on the SERP, and they never really materialized. Like, there was a couple of them, like on desktop, the image preview is now on the right-hand side, and you have a whole panel of information there. Like, wasn't a big deal. Like, Google made it sound like, big deal, image stuff coming, like, better watch out. And that's like, you sort of have to take Google statements a little bit like, okay, let's see how that actually plays out. To me, it's way more important to actually look at how the SERPs, like the small things are changing and evolving and what's happening versus like these big statements that Google's putting out there, because there's always a lot. Like, come on, they're saying these big statements and they don't half of the time materialize. Anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine. Doesn't make a difference. Keep moving, Morty. If you look at, I was playing around with the SERP last week. I said, I got to get back to this. Like, this is my bread and butter. I got to get back to this. And, of course, there's more and more images. This is going on for the last 2 years, let's say. Like, give or take. Like, way more image thumbnails than ever. We have a whole blog post about that. Like, image thumbnails on mobile spiked up. You have carousels. You have all these how-to carousels. Lots of images. And I think a lot of the way we relate to this, the SERP is way more visual, particularly on mobile. And that's because Google wants it to be more engaging, and Google wants it to be more attractive, and Google wants it to have a certain look and a certain feel. But I was looking at the how-to carousel in particular, and I'm like, wow, you know what? I totally skipped over the how-to carousel in case you don't remember or in case you don't know. Let's say you search for how to sew a button. So a website can create schema markup that shows you step by step on the SERP through like a title and an image how to sew a button. I'm like, okay, I did a query, it brought up a how-to carousel. I'm like, okay, let me go through this carousel and see what's there. I'm like, you know what? I don't really care about step 1 or step 2. I already know that. Let me jump to step 3. And it was all based on what the image showed me. I didn't even look at the title within the carousel card. I'm like, you know what? Google's not just showing a visual SERP to me because it wants me to see more images, because it's more engaging, it's more visually striking. It's so good. That's not what it was about in this particular moment. What it was about was that Google was prodding me to make a click. It was directing me where to go based on the image itself. Like the images, because it's mobile, it's a smaller space. It's more like an app function, where the image is telling me where to go. I'm not clicking based on the title. I'm not clicking based on the written content, because it's small. I looked at the image. I'm like, oh, let me click on that because that image made sense for me.
Right. But that depends on the user's intent. Like, for example, if I type fudge brownies, then sure, the images on the SERP would probably determine which link I click on. But if I type, I don't know, universities in Korea, the images that appear aren't going to influence me or guide me or anything.
That's a really good point. That's actually a very, very, very good point. Well, on the one hand, you're right. However, consider if there is no image at all versus those queries where there is an image, and even though it might be a standard image, like say a car, might be, Google, I don't know, whatever car model, Toyota RAV4. Mm-hmm. So yeah, each will show a different picture of a Toyota RAV4, but they're pretty much all the same. If there is no image, I won't click. If there is an image, I will click because I just notice it more. So in that sense, it's not just about being more visual, like, oh, I feel better, it's a better SERP, it's more, enticing. It's more like, okay, like it's more, the result is more noticeable. But, okay, that's very top level. There are cases where it's a very generic image. Like a lot of these images that show up in local packs, it's a very generic image, but something like they're off-center, they look like crap, they're just like weird, something that's not right about them. Versus it's a very generic image, but it doesn't look like crap. Or it's not off-center. So even like fudge brownies, yeah, every brownie pretty much looks the same, but if your image doesn't crop right and it shows up like, I just see the plate and I don't see it in the brownies, so there's a problem there. But yes, what you're saying is true. Depending on the intent of the query, this is more or less applicable. Right? That for me, the how-to is like the epitome of this. Because if I don't want to see steps 1 through 3, I want to see step 4, the image there is really pushing me to where to click and what to click on or not to click on. And if you had to ask me, by the way, like what's coming, and this is where like if you want to, where's Google going to head with these things on the SERP? Like how looking at the SERP shows you where Google's going to go. A lot of the queries I look at with how-to, like with the how-to markup showing up, the how-to rich result, the images are terrible. Like you can't see them. There's like these people are taking screenshots of whatever tool they're using or whatever it is and pasting them into the how-to, and it doesn't show up. You can't really see it, particularly on mobile. Mm-hmm. And I think Google's going to have to create way more specific and way more tightened guidelines on what images are allowed to be used and what the guidelines are to put images in the how-to carousel, because so many times they're just totally worthless.
Right.
So that's a great example. Thank you. Yeah. That's a great example of where you can look at the SERP, see what's not there, like what's the problem, what's missing, and figure, okay, Google's going to have to go here at a certain point. Or I'll give you another one. A while ago, here's my sports one.
Oh, no.
Here it comes. A while ago, we tracked, get ready for it, it's up here, it's horrible. We talked about on this podcast, among other places, that Google is showing very specific player tabs in a lot of knowledge panels. So instead of like you Google the Dallas Cowboys on mobile, instead of getting a tab that just says players, which is there, you'll get like wide receivers for the Dallas Cowboys. And you'll get a whole list of their wide receivers. So it's the guy who catches the ball. That's gone. When I was looking at this recently, that tab, for the most part, is gone.
What does it mean? It
means that when you Google, let's say, the Dallas Cowboys, all you have are players who are their current rosters, their current roster of players, and you don't have any best wide receivers or all-time quarterbacks. That tab that used to show up isn't there anymore, except for one team.
That is. Like, did Google tested it out? I don't know.
Oh, I'll get to that. That's a good question.
Oh, okay.
There was one that did show it, and it was the New York Yankees, and they had a tab for best pitchers of all time.
Oh.
Weird, right? Just why one team? So that got me thinking, why were other ones gone and only this one remains, which is your question. Mm-hmm. So I think, and this is where you can have different theories about what's going on and take it to the next level. Obviously, I don't know if I'm 100% right here, just a theory, but this is where you can see what's happening on the SERP springboard's thought. Perhaps Google previously, when it was showing that very specific position of players in a tab in the knowledge panel, was flexing its muscle. It's like you were saying, they were testing or showing something. I don't think they were testing. I think it's more they were showing, what can we do? Can we do this? Yes, we can do this. Here we go. We did this. And after they show that they could do this, they scaled back. Okay, now where does it make sense to show this?
Oh.
And they scaled it back. Because you know what? It doesn't make sense to show it here. Maybe there wasn't any engagement with that tab. Maybe only for the Yankees there was engagement with that tab.
The team name is Dallas Cowboys. I mean...
So
kind of engagement would there be for a group with such name? I don't know.
That's America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. I hate them.
Is it?
Yeah, that's America's football team. They're called America's team. They hate their guts, but they're America's team. So shows how much you know about sports.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
The SEO point, yes, a horrible person, really.
Cowboys fan.
I would lock myself away for like life. You're like, who is the Dallas Cowboys? Like, that's literally the most popular football team outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is my team.
Oops.
It's okay. You can take your foot out of your mouth now if you want. How's that taste?
I'm not that flexible. I cannot,
Good to know. Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
TMI. Yeah, okay.
I hope you wash your feet before you try that. Anyway, what I was thinking was that it's an interesting theme to see that Google might push something out there, flex its muscle, see what's possible, see if it can do a good job at it, and then pull it back and look at applicability afterwards. Because it makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of these tabs that were showing up they're pretty generic. Like they were showing like best coaches for the New York Giants. Like, okay, like you can have this, you can not have this, but like, hey, the Yankees do have an incredible amount of pitchers that are just like super famous, so maybe that's why it's doing it for the Yankees. Again, I don't know 100%. I can't say 100%. This is why Google's doing it. But again, the theme, the message is cool. They flexed their muscle, they tried it out, and they looked at applicability and they scaled it back, which is what I'm talking about, thematic analysis. And that's the only way you can do this, really looking at what's on the SERP and analyzing it thematically. And that's that.
That's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. I think it's the most interesting thing out there. You just really spend time looking at the same queries over and over again, or the same type of queries over and over again. And you can do this for the organic results also, right? What results are ranking for this particular query and analyze it thematically. Oh, there's a lot of informational sites and very little commerce sites. Oh, there's a lot of commerce sites, but they're all this type of commerce site. Or they're all informational sites, but they're all geared towards reviews. Whatever it is, you can see how this is changing over time and analyze that thematically. Anyway, I can keep going on and on about this. That said, I did have a chance to speak with Simon Cox, who I wanted to have on the show forever. Just for some reason, we're doing it now. But it's good timing, because Simon said he wanted to talk about COVID-19. I'm like, that's great. You just jumped the entire 2-month queue of interviews that I had by speaking about this topic. So sorry to everybody else. I actually okayed it with everybody else afterwards. Anyway, here's Simon Cox talking about what he's been doing with his sites in relation to COVID-19. Cut 1. Welcome to another In Search SEO podcast interview session. Today we have with us a bread-baking, geography-knowing, Twitter chat fiend. You may know him by his beard. He is the great Simon Cox. Welcome.
Welcome. Great as in cheese.
By the way, can I ask you, I have a lot of questions to ask you, but what is your favorite bread?
Oh, that's a really difficult question. I love all breads. Breads are just lovely. So, good sourdough with a dark whey. And I've actually never baked one of those, but I've had some fantastic ones in the past. So that's my favorite.
Well, I haven't had sourdough bread in a long time. I love sourdough bread. Sourdough pretzels also, everything sourdough.
You just reminded me, actually. I've got some downstairs. I've forgotten to fold.
do you want to put it on pause? You go.
No. It's fine. Carry on.
I guess before we get going, if you'd mind just letting us know who you are, what you do, how people can find you, that sort of thing.
I'm Simon Cox. You can find me on Twitter at Simon Cox. I work with my wife, and we have a tiny boutique agency called Cox and Co-Creative. I'm just thinking about it because the domain name's coxand.uk. I always get that wrong when I tell people, but yes, Creative. And we really do other things. My wife does sort of business lead stuff and more marketing stuff, and I do marketing support as well as SEO. I like doing technical SEO mostly, migration, what people hate a lot. I like quite a lot.
Yeah, I hate that stuff.
Stuff like that.
Good for you for doing that.
Right, exactly. I like diving in and understanding why things aren't working well.
That makes you doubly brave. You're doing technical SEO and you're working with your wife.
Yes. Well, no, she's great.
You have to say that. Come on.
She's not even here.
No, I'm joking. Although I couldn't work with my wife, so good for you. Not that I don't love my wife, who's probably in the other room. I hope she didn't hear me, because now we're all working
There's
from
a lot
home.
of people like that, yeah. So we've got no choice. And of course, in lockdown, that's even happier for us because it's great.
You can never leave each other's presence. Amazing. What could be better?
Indeed.
So we're going to talk about COVID-19, local businesses. I guess to kick it off, what have you seen? What's going on out there? Because you mentioned to me you have a couple of interesting cases that you're working on. So lay it out for us.
Yeah, the most interesting one is our local florist, who we picked up as a client a couple of years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, actually. And we built her a small website. It was a one woman shop, and we built that site with the express intention of turning that into an e-commerce platform. Well, platform's a big word for it, but adding e-commerce onto that site in the future. And the decision to add that was made December.
Oh, wow.
And so she, yeah.
Good timing.
But in time for UK Mother's Day, which is in the UK, that's on the 22nd of March, which I know is different in different parts of the world. And we got it ready during February. It's literally just a single page. We wanted to keep it simple with a few bits and pieces on it. And I do code as well, which is why I do technical SEO. I like coding. So I built this on Perch content management system and built a single page with a few items on it, which we got together. My wife took some pictures, and the florist herself takes some good pictures as well. We got that together. And then the run-up to Mother's Day, of course, COVID-19's started rampaging then, and people starting about social distancing and the rest of it. And we're like, okay, Mother's Day is the most important day for the year, because it's when she makes the most profit for most florists. And she was really quite worried what was going to happen. So she started getting sales through the e-commerce. She got lots on telephone, which is a normal thing, and people walking into the shop. It's in a village, a lot of people walk in the shop, but people were looking at the e-com page we built and ordering via telephone as opposed to actually going through a cart, etc., which is great. That's not a problem. They just pick stuff, ring her up, and yeah. But so the day before Mother's Day, she decided that she wasn't going to actually open the shop on Mother's Day. Sunday, she didn't normally open on Sunday anyway, but she was going to shut the shop down with her in it to actually make up the orders and just do deliveries. So people could either buy through the web page, or they can ring up and she just delivers. So she shut the shop. The day after, the Monday, she decided to keep doing that. She put social distancing in before. So I've missed a bit out there. Before that, we'd helped her set up all sorts of things to do in the shop to keep the staff safe. Process people could come into the shop and get wiped down and hand sanitizers and the rest of it to keep everything clean and handy, which is good. But Sunday and the Monday, she was here by herself. And the Monday night, we had UK full lockdown for that point. Well, the lockdown we had. So she had to shut the shop.
Wow.
So Tuesday, we took everything off the e-com. I turned the payment system off for it. And that was it for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Nothing. She sat at home. She kept her social media going. She does a bit of social media, which is good. And then she got 1 or 2 phone calls saying, "Are you doing any flowers for Easter?" And she rang us up and said, "Right." My wife and her had a good long chat, and we decided to relaunch the e-com page, but with Easter flowers. And several things happened at that point. Getting flowers from Holland, which is where most of them come from most of Europe, was getting difficult, simply because there weren't enough drivers to drive the stuff over from the abroad. So she started sourcing locally. There's a huge amount of flower growers in the UK, and they're just sitting there with all these plants dying. And there's been several interesting initiatives around that. A guy down in the south coast who's built a firm up over a month with about 50 delivery drivers just going around delivering flowers to supermarkets. I would have otherwise have done. Which is great. Anyway, so she's got some local suppliers now and started putting stuff together for Easter. And we reopened the shop, and within an hour, she had 3 orders.
Wow.
Which I heard was actually fantastic. And she, so far this month, has taken more money than last month, even though last month was Mother's Day and Everything Day. So
check that out.
It was a combination of having that shopping e-commerce page on the site has been absolutely vital to it. And it really wasn't difficult to put together. It's not a big e-commerce system. Because to step back from that, you can buy florist turnkey systems where they've got everything in it, customer relationship management, all the rest of it. But they're very structured like a classic e-commerce site, and they're just horrible. There's no humanity in it.
Well, that's an interesting point. It's a local business, so I would assume you don't want something cookie cutter like that.
Exactly. And also with that sort of thing, you really can't do SEO very much. Whereas I built this site, it's I wouldn't say it's perfect, but as far as my knowledge of SEO goes, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's ranking well. It's ranking very, very well, actually. And that gives a lot of customers. So,
did you have to adjust the page in order to, sort of calm people's fears about COVID-19? Are there messages about COVID-19 on the page that you had to put on?
Yeah, homepage.
On the homepage.
Big bit on that. Lots of messages that wife wrote in there about what the shop was doing, how their business. So everything is you can buy online or order through the telephone, and they will now deliver free. They used to have a £5 charge for deliveries, and they just dropped that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And she delivers in a small 5-mile radius of the village, and it's been going very, very well.
That's interesting. Do you wonder? I wonder. Do you think she saw more sales this past month because of Easter, or because hey, I want flowers. I want a little bit of color in my life, and it's a quick way. It's a quick way to get it.
Definitely a lot of that. So because I've had access into the cart and see the messages that people are leaving, etc. There's a lot of flowers for families, or somebody sending their mother flowers,
nice.
etc. Or people for birthdays, even stuff like that. Which is great. Yes, people do want colour in their lives. They want to normalise bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing. Doing it. I ordered my uncle. My uncle stuck by himself. He actually had the virus for a week or two. It was like already a month ago, maybe. And I sent him a book. He's sitting there bored out of his mind. Let me send him a book. I'm a nice guy. That's what I'm trying to say.
It depends on what the book was, though.
Oh, the NFL.
Okay.
If you like the NFL,
the ball
it's great.
No, I don't like it at all. I'd have sent it back with virus. But I know you like the NFL, so
that's all right. That's okay. I get it. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Rugby, yes.
Right. No. Soccer. What soccer is football for you? Is it soccer?
Okay? Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't like that. Rugby, yes.
Rugby. Rugby's cool. I watched a little rugby. It's cool.
Yeah.
No pads. Sport. Right. What else have you seen going on out there? Because I know there's a couple of things.
So the other one, we worked for a as well, and we thought they would. To be honest, they were going to drop us and just put us on furlough and say, right, we'll come back to you after this is all over.
Yeah, that's
They've
scary.
actually upped. I was like, awesome. We want more of you, which is we'll crack on with that. So we're doing all sorts of bits and pieces in there, and the first thing we did was put together an activities page. With lots of things for people to do in lockdown. And
I like that.
We've started seeing quite a few people do that. So they were colouring in art stuff, word searches, puzzles, quizzes and stuff like that and everything. But that's gone down really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, that's content everybody wants.
Yeah, exactly. It's things to keep the kids quiet.
So what's interesting is how much of this is technical SEO versus how much of this is like looking at the market, seeing what's needed and trying to meet that need?
It's... The way I look at it, it's the same thing. So if you've got great content on there, people will come to it. So from that point of view, there's no technical SEO in here apart from just making it work correctly. But there is good, solid content SEO, just making sure that you've got the content that people need right now for them, for what they need, etc. So it's all about intent. So yes, people want to come buy flowers. People want to do colouring in wildlife pictures right now. And you wouldn't normally carry on the wildlife one. We wouldn't normally have a page of activities to do, but right now it's the right thing.
Yeah,
and it certainly has got a lot of traffic. So, yeah, that's from a content SEO point of view rather than a technical one.
I'm wondering on that point when you were working with the flowers, when you on that, were you targeting COVID-19 in particular, or were you saying, okay, well let's create a page? No, there's just flowers.
No, not at all. No, I think there's that. I was Well, apart from the messages on the homepage saying this is what we're doing in this situation, I think anything that mentions around COVID-19, from an SEO point of view, you might be starting to step into troubled waters, and if you might be seen as trying to profit out of those words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a problem.
Well, what people should have,
it's a problem.
What they're doing, but you shouldn't have everything in there. You should be trying to target COVID-19 as a key.
Right. No, I don't
really,
think you have
nobody
to.
should be doing that unless there is somebody who's got, I don't know, bleach fringe or something. Obviously,
Nice.
Which is obvious one.
Nice. Ultraviolet light.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, for up the rear. Nobody should be doing that at all, because it's going to just cause you great pain as Google then slams your sites and says that this is
Yeah, I mean, you're entering a whole world of authority that you're probably not set up to deal with.
Exactly. So I was really quite cautious about using those terms anywhere apart from just as a message on the homepage, and I'd be surprised if anybody did try to utilize it. Obviously, people are to see what's going on, but
no, I think Google gets it anyway. Like I saw one where it was a New York Times wrote a whole article of things to do while you're stuck in quarantine, and when I was looking for a track, or it was things to do in New York City, so Google's throwing that page in and out of the SERP because Google's like trying to play around with it. Like, oh, we get this. Things to do in New York City now means something different than it did a month ago or 2 months ago. So we're going to throw a page that's nothing to do with New York City per se onto the SERP.
Yeah. And I think Google are changing stuff around. We're all working from home, and so which means all the Google people are working at home, which means they're more relaxed, which means they're coming up with more crazy ideas to do things to the SERPs, which means it's going to change even more. Yeah, and it has been. Let's try this. We had that's an idea from last year. We'll do that, and it's trying to keep up with it because everybody's working from home. Of course, they've got hours of the day now that they not commuting anymore. They've got time to go and look at the SERPs, but we haven't. To be honest.
Well, that's good at least. You don't have the time because it means you have the client base to keep up with.
Yeah, but there is so much going on with SEO.
For instance, just to pick your brain a bit.
So I really meant by on the learning front, lots of courses coming out free now. Lots of people sharing knowledge at the moment, which is all fantastic stuff. I haven't got time to go and look at it all, and it's just loads of really good stuff that people are sharing at the moment, which is wonderful. And absolutely brilliant for all those in-house people that can't work. But absolutely rubbish for those people that can work from home or are working from home and have no time at all.
Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's totally ironic. I'll try and catch up with it all next year.
Make a list.
By which time it'll all be out of date anyway.
It's like reading, whatever articles in the SEO industry. You open up like 15 different tabs. Like, I'll get to this later, and then you never get to it.
I even have a tab organizers because everybody complains about the tabs I've got. I've got a couple of extensions one that sleeps tabs that I haven't looked at for half an hour. So I go back through my tabs, they're just everything's slept, which helps Chrome not burn my computer up. And then the other one, I can just hit a filter and it just collapses loads of tabs into groups, and I can just open them up later.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is great, yeah. But I have now, in that one that collapsed them, I have tons of groups of stuff that I need to go back and look at.
That's the problem.
When I've got time.
When do you have time? Eventually.
My Pocket account's full up with stuff I haven't read.
That's what it is.
We're all the same.
That's exactly what it is. Everybody speaks the same way, so don't feel bad. I don't feel bad.
No.
I'm wondering if was there anything... No, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like I'll specialize in something, and I thought I specialized in technical SEO, but even that's fragmenting.
That's interesting. How so?
So when I first started doing SEO, there was just SEO. That was it.
Right.
It was just like webmaster making something that could be searched and indexed. But now we've got technical SEO, we've got content SEO, we've got all sorts of different bits. But in technical SEO, we've got people who are now specializing in structured data. And that's just that's what I'm doing, just structured data, because there's so much going on there. Yeah, it is. And it's still progressing and just blossoming and mushrooming. And I'd love to spend a lot more time on that, but I've got other things that I need to do.
Have you messed around with the special announcement, or have you had to mess around the special announcement schema? Or no,
I haven't. I think I would like to, and there's probably situations that I could have used it or can use it, but just haven't got around to it yet. So,
When would be a good situation to use it, actually?
Well, it depends on your business, really. From a business point of view, I wouldn't use it on anything but a business, probably, and it depends on the type of business you've got and what they're doing. So we could use it for the florist.
Okay.
That she's back open and running business, but in different ways. We could have used it for that, but I suppose.
Do you think it would have made an impact, or just not?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No, because the traffic's tiny. I mean, for bigger sites, I think with huge traffic, then it's probably worth looking into.
How did you generate traffic to her site? Just pure ranking?
Yes. Mainly, pure ranking really, really helps. And that was just getting everything right in the first place. But a lot of GMB work to get it right because the competition was last century.
Yeah, I was going to. Oh, really? I was going to say I would expect it to be really, really hard.
Well, yes and no, it is. So from a national level, we've got Interflora, big brands, etc. And there's some brands now that are national, which would deliver through the letterbox and basically stick the flowers in water and they come back to life. So they dehydrate the flowers, etc. They're very good, but they can't compete on a local level. And there's chains of florists around as well. So it was really a case of going in and targeting the village, and then the surrounding villages and towns as well. She doesn't do so well in the surrounding towns because they've got florists who are bigger and do well. But
okay,
yeah, it does work. The local Google My Business local stuff is really, really powerful for that.
What have you had to do differently, or have you had to do anything differently other than maybe adjusting the hours or whatever it is within the Google My Business profile for COVID-19 with the florist?
I think we've done a few posts, but we've mainly been keeping in touch with people via social media anyway, once she has,
right.
With bits and pieces. But other than that, we've really done nothing different in GMB. I know this is bits we can change for temporary hours and what have you, and say you're temporarily shut, etc. But we've actually just left it as it is.
Okay.
Because she's working those hours and the telephone's available those hours. People know they can't go to the shop. We may, when they start opening things here again in the UK, we may need to go there and start saying that the shop is open.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because if you have the regular hours there as it is now, people can, these are the hours now, but when we're back to business, what's changed? It's like funny because we're talking about changing everything for COVID-19. You have the Google My Business, you have a Google post that you can do just for COVID-19. You have all these things. But when you go back to normal, how does a user know that this is just normal? This is not COVID-19 special?
That's a very good question. The problem is that whilst the shutters came down very quickly on everything for lockdown, going back into normality is I think, going to be very stretched out and long. And it's just going to change slowly as things come back in, because we're very careful about the second spike, if that comes along, and we have to shut everything down again. So it's difficult. It's a really difficult one to answer that, how that's going to work. It's really depends on the vertical and the industry and how those things come back. So big stadiums, I don't think we're going to see any big stadiums full this year.
I don't think
that's
so
probably
either.
going to happen next year. But small shops, I'd expect them to open at some point, because the supermarkets are open.
Right.
But
they're
got
going to have to at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Because we need to keep the economy going. Otherwise, it's just a massive burden on.
5 months from now, you can't imagine everything's still going to be closed the same way. That'd be terrible.
What about work? Basically, your
have,
whole structure starts to fall to pieces. So you've got to bring it back at some point, which is why you've got this pressure from business to get the government to open stuff as soon as possible, as opposed to the health service, which is saying leave it as late as possible. And they know they've got to balance that, which is why I was saying earlier to you about politicians can't get this right. Whatever they say, people will judge them after and say, well, you should have done that earlier, you should have done that later. You can't get it wrong.
Yeah, and I think people know that. And I'm wondering, it's funny because, at least me personally, when they say X, I'm really thinking, okay, so what's the real story here? Is X really true? Is X just qualified because, okay, there's an economic push behind it? Great, I don't know anything. Wonderful. This is great.
Yes, I'm afraid we're living in times now where there is always somebody at the background pushing for their own agenda and stuff. And it's very sad to see some countries around the world, one in particular, where it isn't about the people of the country, it's about the people in power. And that's very sad. For the countries that are doing it properly, where it's about the people, it's working. It's working well.
It's you really see like these like giant discrepancies in these countries. I mean, you have like countries like Japan, which I haven't looked in a while, so I could be totally wrong here, but their numbers are very low.
Yes, because Japanese, they listen to what they're being told. They do what they're told, basically. Yeah. They don't raise up arms and go, no, I'm not doing that.
Also, I wonder if like they get it. Like, we're next door to China, we get this. Oh, there's a virus, we get this.
Yeah. Oh, it's quite simple, really. You don't want to spread it, don't move around. But there are lots of people who say, oh, no, I'm young, I'm not going to get this. And they just move around and give it to the old people. And it spreads. It's terrible. Just silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really bad. I wonder, okay, so let's talk about let's continue getting back to normal. I like that because I need some hope. Stuck at home with 4 kids, it's wonderful, but it's also stuck home with 4 kids.
Well, that's true, yes.
What do you do? Let's say that page you did on the activities to do while in quarantine. What do you do with that page now when quarantine is over? Do you kill it?
So there would be an argument to kill it because it's no longer needed. But actually, I think that should be an evergreen page that they go and update maybe every quarter, maybe every half year. And there's things like there's a book list on there, so you can just add new books as they come out for this particular wildlife focus and stuff like that. So yes, maybe the puzzle change once a year, etc. But people will go back to that. And I can't see any point in getting rid of it. It's not taking up a massive amount of resource to put it together and manage it.
Right. It's like repurposing old content. It's the same sort of thing. Yes. So not what to do in quarantine, what to do on a rainy day when you're stuck at home.
Exactly, yes. I mean, yeah, they would maybe do that, change some titles, change the description on it, and just make it an activities page as opposed to a COVID-19 activities page.
Right, or remember the past, COVID-19.
What did you do during the COVID-19?
Right. Oh, that's a great page. That's a great page right there.
Yeah.
Where were you? Exactly. Stuck inside. Everybody else. What do you mean, where was I?
Yes.
Do you see a major difference in dealing with, let's say, a local site in the wake of COVID-19 and dealing with their pages and getting them set up versus a regular e-commerce site or a regular informational site? Outside of the GME things, outside of the local, okay, we have deliveries. There's the business end of it from an SEO perspective.
Good question. I don't think there is much difference, really.
Right.
Obviously, the local shops have got a smaller catchment area and will have to look at things in a much more creative way. And perhaps the local shops will be able to respond a lot quicker to these situations and change their working practices in the first place much more quickly than maybe a supermarket. So not too far from us is a farm shop, about 5-6 miles away. And they pivoted their farm shop. They do a lot of other things as well as farm. They do pumpkin festivals and all sorts of other things. But the first I knew, a few days into the lockdown, they had produced a video of how you can drive into their shop. And you drive to the gate, they'd have a board there which you then photograph with your phone with a sort of what's in the shop today. You go and park your car, you choose what you want, somebody come along and I can't remember how they did this bit, but they take your order, I think they point at things and put your numbers, etc. They go away, they assemble a package, a crate, stuff in it, and they pull your car forwards, you release the boot, they put it in the back of the boot, they shut the boot, and then somebody comes up with a big stick, and on the end of the stick is the terminal where you can just wave your card over it and it takes the payment, and off you go.
That's awesome.
All purely, and that was just, they did that within a day or two, produced the videos. The videos on their website, you can go and read that, and so they've got some very good SEO on that, so you start typing in local foods, etc., and that pops up, and you can see how you can go there and pick up your food and pay for it.
I mean, I have to imagine those things are going to stay. I mean, to whatever extent they will or they won't, but to some degree, like, that's awesome. Yeah. Why would I want that to change?
Well, and doing things like that is going to bring people that haven't shopped at your place before. They're going to keep coming in, and because they like what you've done, that you've been responsive, you're local, etc. And that's what the bigger companies, the national companies, have got to compete against. They've got to compete against all these little local shops who are pivoting quickly to serve their communities. And suddenly they're like, well, okay, we're cheaper and we're convenient, etc., but we're not so much local.
So we have that here. So the major supermarket has had a hard time keeping up the deliveries. And they've really limited the amount of slots that are available. So there's a local supermarket in town here. There's all these, corner store kind of thing. And they're the go-to place. Now, in this particular case, they suck, and they've totally blown it. But there was a great opportunity. A great opportunity there where you say, wow, like the service, the prices aren't as bad as I thought they really would be. Let's keep doing this. There really is a tremendous amount of opportunity after the fact. Look, that sense of we're there for you, and I said this in an email to the main supermarket here. I'm like, guys, like you've really limited the slots. I kind of hate your guts. Like I don't want to use you. I'm going to keep using the local person if I have to.
Exactly.
And that was me just being angry because I'm going to go back to them because the local guy here sucks. But really, like there's a tremendous opportunity for local business. Say like we were there for you. We took care of you. We handled this well, and they blew it and they didn't. There's a tremendous opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I think there is. And there's a couple of local pubs who got shut down immediately, of course, and they pivoted, and they're delivering. Well, first of all, they started cooking food for vulnerable people, old people and others, and delivering those. I'm not sure how the payments went. I think they were doing it free to start with. They might be charging a small charge now, but they've turned themselves into little village shops as well, so you can get all sorts of supplies. And they've changed their websites to say this, that you can order stuff online and go and pick it up, etc.
That's great.
And that's pubs. You can buy beer as well.
There's nothing wrong with that. First, I think beer is an essential, so is whiskey.
It is. It keeps you alive.
It keeps you alive.
Unless you have too much.
No. It's a pint. 2 pints, 3 pints, not a lot.
A day, yeah.
A day, right, an hour. Now I forgot. I've never got on beer. I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Beers of Israel.
Beers of Israel is a problem because this is a sticky point. The wine here is fantastic. It's really cheap and it's great. I love the wine here. The problem is I'm a Scotch and a beer guy, and the beer here is expensive. The beer here is not good, and so is the Scotch. The Scotch is good. It's first off, I'm an American. I don't know what you guys are thinking with a 700 milliliter bottle. Because the first time I saw it, I'm like, where's the other 50 milliliters? What happened? I felt gypped. No, but for you, I mean, I'm jealous of England. You guys are right there. You have beer. You drink it warm, which is a problem.
Well, no, I don't think that's a problem really. When you get to taste it, see, the thing is with the lager fermented beers, which is at the bottom, yes, cold because it's awful, but the proper ales and beers, you have to drink it at room temperature because that's how it's meant to taste, and it's brewed properly. It's lovely. But I say that America has got a great load of small breweries.
Yes,
and
love it.
Beers.
There's amazing. It's one of the things I miss is the craft breweries.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah,
but of course the multinational stuff is all rubbish.
They use rice. It can't be good. It's ridiculous.
No, that's sake. Sake's good though.
I never had it.
Oh, you should try it.
That's my new line is Corona, a terrible disease, and a beer you should never ever taste.
Yeah. Was it Corona the beer that you put the lemon in the top?
Yeah, you put the lime in it. Yeah.
That's to stop the flies going.
That's just it's just to make it. Oh, that looks good. And then you taste it. Hell, that tastes like urine.
Yeah.
It looks like urine and it tastes like urine. We're all good. No, but that's again like a major point. I see a lot of these like major brands. So I was watching. I think it was the NFL draft because it's the only thing to watch. And they had these, these big.
House, yeah.
What's that?
Well, in your house, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. For me, that was the only thing to watch. And the rugby draft, I don't know when that is.
I don't have rugby drafts. It's not many years ago the rugby players went professional.
Oh, really? That's it?
Yeah, before that they were just paid in beer.
Just paid in beer and in pain.
Pretty much, yes.
It's like the old Mr. T from Rocky. What's your prediction? Pain. Give it up. There are no pads. I give it up for those guys. But anyway,
so you're saying about the NFL.
Yeah, they have these big multinational, Budweiser and whatever it is. And this is an interesting point. They put out these ads saying, we're here for you, we're there for you, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't believe it for a second. You're only doing this because you can't sell as much beer. You figure we might as well come off like we're nice people so that after this whole thing happens, you remember that Budweiser means nice people. But I feel like a local company or a local brand doing that, you kind of get that there's a bit of sincerity because you feel connected to them.
Very much so. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I have seen and read quite a few COVID-19 type adverts and had loads of emails from companies, big companies, or talking about COVID-19, what have you, and we're here for you, exactly that. And I felt no connection with them whatsoever. And actually, I think that's devalued their brands.
Yeah.
I think they've done it wrong. They've tried to tap into that. Or felt they ought to be tapping it, or not tapping into that, but ought to be saying this stuff. Possibly because it may be a case of if we don't say this, then people think we're horrible people.
Right. I feel like they have to say something. We have to say something. So what else are we going to say?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's a hard spot, but I mean, when you look at that and I look at that, like you see right through it, I have to imagine everybody watching that is either an idiot or sees right through it. So they're banking on idiots, I guess. That's for Budweiser that works, I guess. That's a very smart marketing move. Yeah.
So for local companies, it's easy. You just reach out to your local audience.
Yeah, but and you do it in a real way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm really hoping that COVID-19, one of the silver linings of this will be people finally stop falling for stupid marketing.
No, that's still going to happen.
Yeah. But I'm hoping.
Well, somebody's going to come up with some cure for it at some point, some vaccine and what have you. And there were massive marketing around that. And everybody's going to be, it works in dogs, but will it work in humans? And people want stuff. And people went out and bought toilet paper like there was no tomorrow. Well, for some people there was no tomorrow. But there's no toilet paper. And why? Well, nobody knows why people bought toilet paper.
I don't figure. We had a problem with eggs. We had no eggs. I don't know why. Yeah, but I guess the way I put it, like we're more concerned about what was going in, or the rest of the world was more concerned what was going out.
Yeah. But yes, good point.
Yeah.
Well, it's just the countries that are buying toilet paper, they just need to invest in V-Days. Well, you can buy them and fit them, but that's not the point. It's a weird thing. So yeah, I think marketing will be around for a long time still, and I think people will still fall for the other stuff because a lot of it's on empathy now. It has been for many years, and hitting people's emotions, and people will go for certain things because they're given the message you want to hear.
I guess there's always that large percent, like that 95% of the population that are just idiots. But yeah, I get it. I'm wondering something you mentioned before piqued my interest. You said that the pubs, the local pubs, were switching over, changing their websites to show, hey, now we're selling these things, now we're helping out with this. Have you seen an issue with them getting picked up by Google now that they made that change?
No, because I wasn't looking on that aspect of it, so I didn't really look at the SERPs and say, well, how's this pub doing on the SERPs? Because I was going, oh, they do milk. Great, I'll go around there and get some milk and some beer.
You're just worried about the beer. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was more like, well, does it really matter? We're again, pubs will be a local audience. So again, if they're not in the local SERPs, they just haven't bothered to do any SEO at all. They're not going to lose out because they're visible locally. It's attracting people from further away, and right now they're not going to get that traffic anyway. Right. And really, at the moment, they're just looking after local people. Now, one of the two pubs is on a big chain, so I think they had to do their own page of what they were doing for it. The other pub is just freehold. It does need to attract attention, and it's a restaurant. I think they're both restaurant pubs, so they've got not just beer, but actually food as well. And I think in the country side, you have to do that these days. There's very few pubs that only sell beer. So from an SEO point of view, the second one is doing quite well anyway, and it needs to attract people in to keep it alive.
Does that almost make SEO at the local level a little bit less relevant? I hate to ask.
Yes, that's not changed anyway. And from my point of view, what's changed with SEO with COVID-19? Not a lot, really. I think, I've seen people spending more time on their sites because suddenly they haven't got shops to sell through anymore. They've just got the e-commerce platform and they're suddenly okay, resource switches right over to that. On the ecom chat a few weeks ago, there was a guy from Neil's Yard who said his channel, he was in charge of the e-commerce and SEO pieces, and his channel went from the one that was thought about the least to the one that was suddenly thought about the most internally.
That's amazing.
That was interesting. Yeah,
that's amazing.
But which is, I'm sure that's happening everywhere. Suddenly your main channel isn't your shops and etc.
I'm sure that's throwing people into a tizzy a little bit. I'm sure it has. I gotta ask you. I totally forgot to ask this. What do you think of the new shopping thing? Everyone free Google shopping for everybody.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I've heard in the UK it's not going to happen till the end of the year.
Right.
But it's just Frugal coming back.
Right, it's Frugal coming back. Yeah, that's what it is. But it's like,
so that's one of the things I am going to be looking into because there's a couple of clients I do need to get into that and say it's an opportunity. Like if it's there, brilliant. Let's go and use it.
Yeah, why not?
Exactly. Give it a year, and then Google will turn it all back to paid only, and suddenly you've got all these extra retailers who suddenly go, "Well, I need to keep doing this," and they just get a load more money. So it's a massive honey trap.
But smart.
It's a massive honey trap.
Right.
So
I have to think you're right. It's a good point. I didn't think about that because I don't really. I mean, might just be me, but I don't see I don't care how many listings you have, how many product listings you have. I'm still going to Amazon.
Yes, that's a good point.
So the only way they're going to make money off of this is like, hey, you think you need this, pay for it later.
Yeah, but again, there's definitely, I've heard quite a lot of people saying, not masses, but quite a few people saying that they would rather shop locally if they can than go to Amazon.
That's good.
And I think people are focusing on that now to support the local.
I hope that lasts.
Up there rather than going to Amazon. But if they haven't got it locally, I'll go to Amazon anyway because I'll get it tomorrow or in 2 hours.
That's the whole thing. So I wonder how much goes back to normal afterwards. I think from the SEO side, because you imagine not much has changed. Yeah, okay, so Google My Business listing stuff, the schema, whatever it is. Yep. I kind of feel like afterwards is when things are going to change. Because the market might change.
I think the market will change. And things like Germany announcing that they're going to put working from home in as part of their law.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you want to work from home, you will have the right to do that. I don't know how that's going to affect the steel industry. Bring old crucibles home and ask some steel in the garden. But if you can
make cars at home, I hope. Can you please bring the assembly line to my backyard?
Exactly. So I think other countries will look at initiatives like that, and that will change a great deal of everything. So suddenly you've got people not going into city centres and town centres, but they're actually back in their towns and villages, etc. And things are moving around. Yeah. People aren't where they normally are. And I think a lot of that won't go back to what was normal in the past. And things like Zoom. Video conferencing. Now, I've been doing that for years. When I was at HSBC, my last team that I put together.
No, I used to bank there. Check that out.
There you go.
I used to have a lot of problems with that website. A lot of problems.
Nothing to do with me. Actually, a lot to do with me, but there we go.
No, I'm joking. I never had any problems, actually.
We had this team that was literally spread all over the world. So we used WebEx conferencing facilities. And on a daily basis, like I want to speak to one of my team, it wasn't turned around. It was like I'd have to phone up Hong Kong or China or other places, Egypt, etc. A team in about 6 places. And so for me, it was like, well, this is normal. So when the shutdown comes, I'm suddenly teaching everyone how to use Zoom. Right. All my family, they say, we're just going to use Zoom. And people go, well, I don't do conferencing. But actually, it's very, very simple. And I think which is why Zoom's taken off so much.
Unless they change it where you have to have a password all of a sudden. You don't know, the person coming on has no idea you need a password. I don't know when that ever happened, like 20 minutes ago, but yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, probably. Keep up.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
So there's technologies like that which are have become suddenly massive, and everybody now gets it. And that's going to change the way everyone works as well.
Yeah.
Suddenly everybody can work from home in a productive way. And I think people are there's two things. People are realizing they can work at home, although some people are realizing with kids they don't want to. They actually want to go to work.
Well, the kids will be back at school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kids will be at school, somebody can. But also, bosses are now understanding that they can let go of their people and trust them. Because I've seen that in the past. People didn't like people working from home because they didn't trust them enough to work from home because they were sitting around and later around. Well, when I worked from home in the past, when I went for HSBC, I actually did more hours in a day.
Me too.
Than I did if I was travelling in.
Me too.
Because I didn't have to travel in. So,
no chit chat, no distractions.
Exactly.
You do my laundry at the same time. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Which is good for me working from home now, too, is because I can go down and fold my bread.
Oh, right.
Every 10 minutes when I need to.
Oh, we got to hurry up. You have that bread down there. Okay. So I have this little game that I do. I call it Optimize It or Disavow It. It's where I give you two options, either two really good options, and you're stuck choosing one good option over another good option, or two crappy bad options, and you're stuck choosing one bad option over another bad option. So this is the Simon Cox version of Optimize It or Disavow It. And since we spent a lot of time talking about local, let me ask you, which would you rather get right? The opening time in the local pack, you have the local pack and then the hours of operation that appear underneath the listing, or the image thumbnail that shows up sometimes? Because I see a lot of those image thumbnails look terrible. Like a lot of the car dealerships, horrible. So if you could do one or the other.
I go for opening hours. I think that's more important. Again, for local, people know it. If you've got a rubbish image, that's not so great. And if you've got a choice of a lot of shops and people are picking the image, you probably don't want them as a customer anyway. They need to know when you're open. That's
true. But images are like worth 1,000, but pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Yes, but 1,000 words are too many for telling you when you're open.
Touché.
I mean, also, how can you put I'm open 7 days a week, but on Tuesdays I'm on shut in the afternoon in an image?
You two birds with one stone. In the image thumbnail, have your hours of operation. Perfect.
You certainly could do that, yeah. Just
done deal.
On the door.
Right.
Just take a photograph of that.
That's great.
That'll work.
That'll work. Awesome. Simon, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I hope you stay safe, stay well, and stay busy.
It's brilliant. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
And we are back to your regularly scheduled InSearch SEO podcast. I love how you could talk about websites, COVID-19, and it automatically or always ends up getting back to beer. So good for that. Because beer is very important. Anyway, got to keep this train wreck moving.
Train wreck. Wow. Okay.
That's a line from The Simpsons, which I use for family. I use it for family functions. I'm like, all right, let's keep this train wreck moving. Anyway, let's keep this moving with the news. So, Sapir, could you please hit it with the news?
Okay. Google says that site speed, while great for users, is not much of a ranking factor.
Which is interesting. I mean, first off, okay, I'll talk about this more in our bonus content that you'll find on the Twitter page.
Do you want to say the Twitter handle?
Of course I do. It's at InSearch_SEO. At InSearch_SEO. But one of the things to realize is that even though it might not be a ranking factor, gargantuan proportions, it's still important for your users. Like if your site takes too long, you might rank well. Too long to load, you might rank well, but your users will be like, this sucks, and leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Google previously said that all sites would be moved to the mobile first index by September 1st. However, because of Corona, the deadline may be delayed.
That deadline will be delayed. And it would have been delayed outside of Corona also, because every time Google makes one of these deadlines, it's always delayed.
Okay. Thanks, Mordy.
That's a cynic in me.
Yeah. Moving on. Despite the ongoing pandemic, Google's first quarter earnings were not as bad as expected, with year-over-year revenue being up over 10%.
Hooray. Hooray.
Hooray.
Hooray. I don't always trust, like, it's like hard to see, like, what's the real impact of COVID. Whatever. It'll be interesting to see what happens after COVID-19 is done and what the earnings say afterwards to see how powerful the earnings really were. Whatever. Does it really impact my life? Yes. Do I really care? I do. But do I pretend like I don't? Yes.
Thank you, Mordy.
Follow that train of thinking for a moment. Whatever.
Train wreck. Okay.
Train wreck.
Moving on. Some of Search Console's reports will be using a smaller sampling of pages. Reports, such as rich results reports, will be analyzing fewer pages to improve performance.
Right, to improve Search Console's performance and quickness and that sort of thing. So like, if you see some kind of weird dip, that might be why. That's all. Good to know.
Yeah. Okay, and lastly, Google's feature to manually submit a question to be answered is expanding beyond COVID-19 queries.
Right, so that's interesting. That's that little box that shows up that a lot of people have been seeing more and more often that lets you submit a question to Google to have answered by whatever publishing partners it's hooked up with, which no one knows. It's like the Wizard of Oz, the mystery man behind the curtain. Who are these people answering these questions? We don't know. Are there people actually answering these questions? We don't know. Right. But it is interesting, and then I'll talk about that more also on Deep Thought, which you can find on the Twitter page of the podcast, probably on Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
Okay.
All right. We're good?
We're good.
All right, so let's just jump right into this because I got to go. I got things to do. Okay. I don't have time for this. Right. I'm a busy person.
Okay. Come on, Mordy.
I'm sorry. No, let's just do this. What are we up to? I forgot. Fun! Okay, fun SEO send-off. Yeah. Now it's time for our fun SEO send-off question. Roll music. Yeah, by this point in the podcast, I'm like burnt out. Like, let's just do this. This week's question was ignored. This segment did not get a lot of TLC this week because Sapir ignored it.
What?
You ignored it.
I didn't have time.
I'm looking at the notes here. I can see when you updated the Google Doc, 10:42 today. And by the way, you didn't even notice that I threw a different question in. Didn't even notice. So this whole thing is a total mess. That's what I'm saying. This question is a hot mess.
Okay.
Right. No, yeah, of course. Okay. Ignore the podcast. I understand. So
we'll save my question. We'll save it for next week.
Okay, that's fair.
Your question.
That's good. Okay, so
I have a good question.
Though. It is a good question. I'm looking at it now. It's the first time I'm seeing it. By the way, is now. Literally, is right now. Yes, it's a good question.
It is.
You know what? We're getting ahead for next week. We're so prepared for next week now. It's unbelievable. This week's question, though, is what's the most scandalous thing you'll find in Google's browser history? The most scandalous thing you'll find in Google's history.
What is this question?
I'll answer first because probably the first time you're seeing this question is right now.
No, actually, I saw it before and I have an answer.
Go for it.
It's like, it's a stupid question and it's a stupid answer.
What? That's a great question. Stupid question, my ass.
So I think maybe a Reddit page with like an expose about Bing or something. No?
You kind of took my answer away, like
seriously.
Sort of. I wasn't. I didn't get into nitty gritty. A Reddit thread about an expose about Bing. Mine would have been Bing.com.
Oh.
Huh? See, the answer makes the question good.
My answer is better.
No, it's not. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Why is yours better?
Because Reddit is more interesting than the actual Bing.
No, but it's Google saying, hey, we're going to Bing because we can't forget it. Self-evident.
No, but
whatever. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's episode of the InSearch SEO podcast. Keep in mind, new episodes come out every Tuesday. Look for the Rank Ranger blog. It's been In Search because we're all in search of something. Toodles!